Hi, welcome to the People's Food Summit 2024. This is the Asian component, and I have the privilege today of working with my two friends and sisters, Ms. Ercilia, who is our Latin America Director at Regeneration International, and Swati, who is from India. So it's three continents in one place, but this particular day, we have the privilege of hosting Miss Swati, all the way from Andhra Pradesh communities in India. Swati, briefly, she's a global citizen and her impact is global as well. So I'm just going to say briefly who she is, and she'll indulge us in everything else. Swati is currently an associate scientist with the World Agroforestry, CIFOR or ICRAF. And she's been working with the communities of Andhra Pradesh, where they are doing farmer managed natural farming program, especially for the last 7 years. So, Swati, you're welcome. I know that today you are engaging us in the transformative work that you've been doing, this very important work. So, we're really looking forward to just engaging with you and having a chat. So, take us on.
Thank you so much, Precious. Namaste, everyone. Namaste, Rislia. Namaste, Precious, and everybody else as well. Thank you so much for giving opportunity for the story and narrative of Andhra Pradesh to be presented to you all. Thank you so much. So I would like to share my screen, and then we can take forward this conversation, and possibly I'll take 15 minutes, and then Celia and Precious, we can have some one-on-one conversation. Will that be fine? Perfect. So I am just here sharing my screen. I hope you can just give me a thumbs up that you are able to see it. Precious or Ercilia, if you can just tell me if you're able to see my screen.
Very well.
Perfect. So this is it's 8:30 right now in India, and in the evening, and I'm here to speak about a very important aspect in food systems transformation, and that is the paradigm shifts that is required for transforming the food systems. uh, we are The narrative today is basically shifting the current agricultural green revolution based food systems, which is predominant in the world today, to natural farming systems. The nomenclature can differ. So in India, the conversation around natural farming is accelerating. Global and elsewhere, there is agroecology, there is regenerative agriculture, there is sustainable agriculture. So, more than the nomenclature, we would focus on the principles of soil regeneration, principles of bringing the wisdom of communities in the center, and that is much more important than the nomenclature war that is going on. This narrative will be surrounded around the Andhra Pradesh Community Managed Natural Farming Program, which is a government program in a state in India, and which is now getting scaled up across the state of Andhra Pradesh, which is a state is a county for references across the world, and it's now the government of India is talking about it, and it's path breaking because the most populated country in the world is talking about transforming its food systems. We have 1.5 billion people to feed, and we are talking about transforming our food systems from green revolution to natural farming systems. Let us understand this first in the context of the planetary level problems that is facing us. So I am in Asia right now. Precious is in Africa, and Ercilia is in Latin America. While we are divided by continents, we are united by the problems. And the problem is basically the agri-food systems that is marring the farm crisis across the globe, and which is being accelerated by the climate change, which is being accelerated by how we produce food, how the degradation of the planetary health is happening. And this slide shows that the 6 to 7 planetary boundaries have been completely, we have completely crossed those boundaries. This is a very catastrophic infographic that we are seeing here. And this is all my context building, why we are talking about food systems transformation. A planetary health check scientific assessment report is talking that the 6 of the 9 planetary boundaries have already been breached. And the problem is these boundaries, these 6 are caused by the food agri systems. It is caused by how we produce food, how the food is grown. And that is where my conversation on paradigm shift comes into picture. Let us understand why we are talking about paradigm shift. Because one project, one NGO, one civil society, one program, one scheme, one philanthropy cannot solve these problems of planetary level catastrophe that we are facing. It requires a paradigm shift. And what is a paradigm shift? We need to look at the problems, we need to look at the situation, and we need to understand the context in a completely different. We have to change the way we look at science, we need to change the way. And in the context of food systems transformation, the paradigm shift we need to look at is how we grow food. We need to look at it differently, we need to understand and change the way we look at food systems transformation. And this also, ladies and gentlemen, includes what how we grow food, and the solutions also we need to look at it differently. And that's why I'm very sure many of us in our work, in our daily lives, in our interventions talk about paradigm shift. Let us see what exactly is this paradigm shift. The problem which I had built the context of, that we have to eat food to survive, and the food ironically is killing ourselves and the planet. That the method of growing food is destroying us. And this is where it leads to this conversation, Ursula and Precious also, is that we are talking about what do we choose in this paradigm shift. Do we choose the current conventional green revolution farming systems, or we have to choose between agroecology and natural farming? We choose the old science, the science of green revolution, that soil or food has to be grown in a particular way, or we talk about developing a new emerging science because we realize that the previous science actually destroyed the earth. We need to look at the whole mindset of how we grow our food the last 50 60 years, or we talk about behavioral change to new mindset. So this is the paradigm shift that we are looking at. So by end of this presentation, I want you to understand that how do we look at the problems of our food in an extremely different context, or in a way that which is a counterintuitive, is extremely crucial. So I discussed the context. Yes, the planetary boundary is being breached, but the best thing is that there are solutions that exist. The one of the breakthrough, and this is the story that Andhra Pradesh, India is talking about, is that we want to transform our food systems, the way we grow food, into a natural. We want to mimic nature, we want to transform our food systems which is close and in harmony with nature. And this is what natural farming is all about. It is basically mimicking nature. It is a holistic land management practice which looks into accelerating the speed of photosynthesis. In short, what we want to do is we want to mimic the forest. We want to, because forest systems are so automatic, they are so in synergy with each other. Nobody is going there and putting any inputs. Nobody is dumping fertilizers in forests. How are forests growing? These are all self-sustaining entities, and we want to learn from those forest systems and mimic it in cropping systems, in plantation systems, in grazing systems, that how we can mimic forests and understand it much better. And that is where the natural farming conversation in India has begun. And mind you, this the conversation is not anecdotal, it is not a mystic science, it's an emerging science. It is the new science that the world is seeing, and it is backed by prominent people across the globe talking about it. And this slide becomes very important is because when somebody hears natural farming, it should not look like a traditional farming systems. These are incorporating the wisdom of communities, but these are new science. The science of soil, the science of microbes, the science of rhizobiums, fungi, these have all evolved in the last 25 years, because we have not yet tried to understand the soil beneath. We know the world above, but the world below, the soil, we hardly know even 0.001% of it. And this is that the names are just few of many that are working towards ensuring that we look at soil in farming systems, till now we looked at soil through chemistry, and we realize, oh no, soil is a living entity. It's biology, it's microbiology. So that is the reason that the work in Andhra Pradesh is backed by major scientists across the globe. Now what, let us understand what exactly, and these are not something which, this slide is not something only for people who understand the technicalities. Even laymen, people who eat food, consume food, who work in the food system, should understand that what is happening is then how our food is produced is that the roots of the plant takes, produce food, and it gives it to the soil, right? So what we are saying is, in this entire conversation of the soil food webs, the one major aspect missing was that the soil microbes make all nutrients bioavailable. This aspect of soil microbes have been missing in the green revolution conversation. I will go back to the previous slide now. So green revolution conversation, what it said was that because soil are worked only by few entities, say nitrogen, potassium, or some other nutrients. So, rather than looking at the microbial function of the soil, it became more of the chemical function of the soil. And that's why, irrespective of the requirement of the soil analysis across the globe, especially in the global south, people have started dumping the fertilizers in irrequisite quantities. In a country like India, which 70% of the population is dependent on agriculture, the fertilizer is highly subsidized. For example, if and this is just for example, if a bag of fertilizer costs $100, 70% of it is subsidized. It's so basically we are saying that we are, subsidizing to provide poison to the consumers, to the people who eat food. And this is where we are talking about converting the soil chemistry to soil biology. And this is where we are saying, let us understand the nutrient cycles in nature, that the microbes are the one who accelerate or decodes the soil and provides the nutrients. So rather than harping about the external input that needs to be put, we need to understand how do we basically stimulate the microbial functions in the soil. And this is happening, and this will actually ensure increase in soil porosity. It will increase in soil carbon sequestration. And I'm very sure we all know that we have to fix two major cycles of greenhouse gases to ensure the global warming, and that is the carbon cycle along with the water cycle. And what is natural farming or agroecology trying to do is accelerate this soil microbial function. And it is something which is necessary for all of us working in the food systems to understand. This is extremely layman language. The farmers in India understand. A small illiterate farmer is, as in Andhra Pradesh, is understanding, and it is simple, logical, and rational. And it's easy to understand that if we fix the soil, we will fix the entire carbon cycle, we will fix the water cycle, we'll be able to fix the problems of farm crisis along with the problems of food crisis and nutrition and every other ecosystem restoration, everything. And that is where soil structure and water conservation go hand in hand. Unfortunately, for example, in India, even at the government level, the department or the Ministry of Soil does not talk to the Ministry of Water. And we are looking at the problems in our own echo chambers, in our own lenses, rather than looking at it in an integrated manner, because it is all interconnected. So, how do you? So, another question you will ask, okay, Swati, we understood that we need to increase the microbial function of the soil. How to do it? How to achieve it? And that's why this is the answer to that. That the universal principles of natural farming is talking about how do you increase the microbial function of the soil. We are saying that let the soil be covered with crops 365 days a year. Usually in the global south, in Southeast Asia, I'm sure that's the same. Precious may and Erislia may tell in Mexico or in Zimbabwe that farmers are dependent on rain. So there are two windows of cropping systems. That is how we understand farming. What we are saying is that through natural farming, through agroecology, through accelerating the microbial function of the soil, we want to keep it covered to 365 days. That means that the soil should never be able to see the sun. It should be always covered. Then we are talking about diverse cropping systems, 15 to 20 crops. Right now our green revolution paradigm has taught us that only crops needs to be monocropping systems, which has completely destroyed. I think it doesn't even require science to say that nature does not exist in homogeneity. It is an heterogeneous self-sustaining entity, and that is the reason we are talking about diverse crop systems. Then the third principles we are saying is, let us keep soil covered with crop residues. Let us keep, so whatever in, you will be fascinated to know, in northern India there is a practice that after harvesting, the leftovers are burnt. And the irony is that the same crop can be dumped into the soil, wherever, and this can help as a mulch to the soil. So these kind of, intuitive and community induced wisdom that needs to be inculcated is not there. So we are talking about keeping soil covered with soil residues, crop residues. And then fourth is, we are talking about minimal disturbance of soils. That means minimal tillage. All these heavy mechanized industries of using tractors to tilling the soil, actually, and I'm sure many of you, all of us, it is time and again proven, the soil conservation and sustainable agriculture talks about it, that tillage needs to be eventually minimized. Then farmer needs to use, and this is a big question on seed sovereignty, that farmer own seeds needs to be used. So if a farmer has started doing natural farming, they, preserve their soil, and then season after season, one crop after another, the genetic DNA of the seed also changes, and we definitely prefer indigenous seeds. That is extremely crucial. Then we are talking about integrating animals into farming systems. Unfortunately, because of the green revolution, animals have been shunned away, and have been kept away from agriculture and farming systems. So through natural farming, we are saying, let us integrate animals into farming. Then we are saying biostimulants as catalyst to trigger soil biology. What does this biostimulants means? Basically, whatever is locally available inputs needs to be put in the soil. And I'm very sure we all agree to the fact that we need to eat local, we need to use local inputs. And the science is very simple. It is because your gut microbe is connected to your soil microbe, and this is a synergy between what the food that we eat versus the food that is produced. And that is, it's very unfortunate, because of the globalization in the world, that avocado which is produced in, say, southern America, and is available in a supermarket in India, and we eat avocados which the bacteria and the nutrition in the avocado is not in sync with the Indian gut, for example. So it has, so you have all these new age diseases, and especially India has the highest non-communicable diseases. We are a country, we are a diabetic country, and this is because our food systems have been completely corrupted because of the food that we are eating. In fact, Precious and Ercilia, that Hippocrates once said that let food be your medicine. But what we are, unfortunately, because of the way we are growing food, the way we are eating food, it's basically we are having medicines as food, and that is very, very unfortunate. And then we are saying the eighth principle is that pest management, should be better pest management practices. We use agronomical and botanical pesticides. And the ninth and the most sacred of the principle is that we want to reduce the dependency on synthetic fertilizers, pesticide, herbicides, and weedicides. No to them. And these are the principles of natural farming. Now, these principles are universal in nature. What does that mean? By that it means that these principles are applicable in Andhra Pradesh in India, it is applicable in Zimbabwe in Africa, and it is applicable as well in Mexico, in North America, or Peru or Brazil in Southern America. So because of the universal principality of it, the natural farming systems, these are universal in nature, and I'm sure the principles of regenerative agriculture or agroecology, all of them talk about these universal principles. Now, the principles can be universal. What differs is the practices. What the problem today, and this is where we keep on confusing ourselves, that we are focusing more on the practices rather than the principles. So the practices will be localized, it will be customized, but the principles are universal in nature. So we need to be extremely cautious. what triggers microbial function in the USA, Midwest USA, or in Latin America. We need to focus on the practices that are in sync with the principles. And that's why we are talking about crop diversity and polycropping systems. Then I am taking you through just a montage of how the biostimulants or practices which are customized and localized in India, in Andhra Pradesh, as that this is a process of seed inoculation. We call it microbial seed coating. You are making the seed robust before planting, and this helps in ensuring that the robustity of the seed is extremely rigorous. This is another soil microbial enhancer, which is Ghana Jivamrutam. This is a solid inoculant. So if you see, you require all these inputs, precious, are procured locally. So you get cow dung, jaggery, pulse flour, cow urine, and handful of uncontaminated soil. And mind you, this recipe of sorts are recipe for ensuring that the microbial function in the soil gets triggered. It is beautiful science. All of this has their own reasoning. This is not something mystical. These are all why you require cow dung, because cow dung act as an inoculant. Why jaggery is required, because it attracts ants and other important bugs, so microbes. So all of this has a reason why they are involved into it. So this is all completely scientific in its approach. Then this is a liquid biostimulant. So this is so powerful that we have beyond Andhra Pradesh, in other states in India also, these inoculants are working like a charm, because this makes the soil much more robust and resilient, because we need to make our cropping system resilient to the vagaries of climate change. So drought, flood, all of it is being taken care of. Pest managements are done by botanical biostimulants and mechanical devices. It is it is very it's a trust building process. At the end of the day, farmers, it's very assuring for farmer to bring a chemical pesticide and spray to. So this is a hand holding exercise, Precious and Irsilia, that we are saying that let farmers build their trust. And that is the reason the country of India is saying that it will take us 2035 until we reach the state of Andhra Pradesh, and 2047 until we reach all farmers in the country of India. And then this is a unique breakthrough, brilliant innovation, where, and I'm very sure these are prominent across the world also, of seed pelletization. We are saying that seed pelletization process is ensuring that farmers do just pelletize the seeds on the field, and as little amount of rain is also received, we can see that farmers are getting another crop without waiting for the monsoons to arrive in India. And this is an extremely amazing innovation that has happened. Now the impact of it, the big question is it impactful? The We had a cyclone Michong in December 2023, and it is evident, you can see it on the screen, that the conventional farming system was completely waterlogged versus the natural farming plot. And this is just side by side, adjacent to each other, and look at the difference. It could withstand heavy rainfall, it could withstand heavy winds, and this is itself proof. Farmers don't require any scientist to tell. It is visible proof in front of their eyes. That is much more conviction. It is helping in greening the desert. It's helping in drought proofing the earth, because you are not dependent on rains. You are using the acquired atmospheric water along with groundwater to grow food. What is the impact? First is, let me be very clear that there is no yield penalty. The state government of Andhra Pradesh is talking about it. And as I mentioned earlier, the most populated country on earth, India, is talking about transforming its food systems. That means that we are assured that the yield penalty or the decrease in yield does not exist. These are all mythical conversations. In fact, there are independent studies which have shown that the yield actually increases from year one. First. Second is, the cost of cultivation comes drastically down. Even in situations where, for example, difficult crops like maize or brinjal, even if the yield was decreased by 10%, because of the decreased cost of cultivation, the farmer actually ended up having more net incomes. Then you have reduced water requirement. You have positive health and nutrition impacts, because farmers are eating, and the communities and consumers are eating diverse food. It's not just because of the monocropping systems. Our food plate also was becoming completely unidimensional. But because of multi-cropping systems, farm families and rural communities and urban communities are able to have diverse food, and these are all iterative in nature, mind you, right? And then we have greater biodiversity. Bees have started coming on the farm, butterflies are back, earthworms are back, birds are back. So these are all slow rejuvenation of biodiversity. Now, this slide is extremely crucial, that good work has been happening across the globe. NGOs, civil societies are working towards it. But as I said earlier, that it's a planetary crisis that's happening. That means we need to talk about scale. We need to talk about millions of farmers doing agroecology or natural farming or regenerative agriculture. They need to shun away from chemicals to grow food. And if you can see, this slide is a great impetus towards the discussion that agroecology, regenerative agriculture, or natural farming, or any such alternative agriculture systems are scalable. They are not niche. There are large scale is possible. If you can see on the screen right now, there are a million farmers this year that have been enrolled in the natural farming program in Andhra Pradesh. And why has this happened? This is where, a major takeaway for people who are working in the transformation system is that we need to work in an integrated manner, right? So we need to work with government. There is a requirement for generating knowledge with in various formats, integrating it with the community. The problem, that persists is that there is this knowledge, huge knowledge of alternative agriculture systems, but it is not being taken to the community. That gap is missing. I'm sure, Ursula and Precious, that you have been also, we have all been struggling that how, please tell us how to do it. This problem of, we know this is good, but how do we take it to the farmers? This big question of how. So we need to build grassroots and farmer champions, and especially women needs to be brought under this conversation. And Andhra Pradesh has a tremendous, amazing self-help group network that was brought on board to take this knowledge. And then we are talking about human capital. I am not a farmer. I can, if I go to another farmer and convince, brother, let's transform to natural farming, he or she will not agree. It is only through the human capital. A farmer who has done natural farming talks to another farmer, only then the conviction comes. And then the role of facilitating organizations, policy makers, think tanks, donors, philanthropies become extremely crucial to innovate and help in innovation. And then we need to develop the science further. Precious and Estila, am I audible? Can I continue?
Yes, continue, Swati. Quite
Yes.
audible and we're following very
Thank
well.
Yes, thank you. So while this knowledge, as I earlier said, exists, but we have, so this knowledge exists and then community exists. So this bridge, this gap between the knowledge and the communities have been bridged by the program. And for us in India especially, farming is done by women. Let us understand this. And it's unfortunate that the image of farmer even now in India is that of a man, but majority of the farming is done by women. And that's why in India, majorly in Southeast Asia, and I'm sure in other parts of the world also, this feminization of agriculture and feminization of agriculture crisis is so predominant that the farm crisis is impacting the women as well. And it's to an extent that there have been residues, and this is unfortunate, and I have goosebumps while I'm saying this, that there have been residues of pesticides found in breast milk as well. So the perpetration of chemicals in our life is to that extent. So we need to change how the practices of agriculture is being done as well, because women gets impacted the most. But the best thing is that women, we have seen, understand natural farming much better. They understand agroecology much better than men. And I do not mean any disrespect to men of the world, but women are the one in Southeast Asia especially who cooks in the house, and they are the one who work on the field. So they see the linkages between the food that they grow versus the food that they are cooking and what they are providing to their families. So to enter a house, it is by women that we have tapped their energy, their potential to bring them in the mainstream conversation of agriculture, which the green revolution kept women on the margins, on the side. And if you can see on the screen, we are talking about huge numbers of women self-help groups in India as well as in Andhra Pradesh. Women are collectivized into groups. Self-help groups and federations are powerful entities, and which are the platforms through which the program is ensuring that our rate of transformation, the energy, time, resources that is utilized, helps in geometric progression, in multiplied progression. Otherwise, if our strategy is through men, so we will be going, because men are not majorly collectivized, so you need to tap into one farmer, so it's an arithmetic progression. Women, because of their collectives, when you tap one collective, one women self-help group, that means you're able to reach 10 to 15 women at a time, which is phenomenal. It's that is the reason, the scale that we are able to achieve. So what is a lesson that you can take for your context is that while you are talking or having a conversation or want to transform your local food systems, ensure that you involve women and youth into that conversation. And you also, in the collectives, the existing collectives, there might be some producer organization, there might be some self-help groups that might be working, that should be the entry. It helps in utilization of resources very optimally. And then second, the another takeaway from this should be that the focus should be on developing local farmer champions. The knowledge which right now is held by some civil society or NGO, some implementing or external organization, to transform that knowledge to the community, so that even if the project stop, the knowledge doesn't leave the villages. So the focus, as we did in Andhra Pradesh, should be on farmer heroes. It should be on developing local champions. For example, tomorrow, if for any reason the government changes, the political will ceases to exist, there might be a lot of changes that the world can, the projects stop working. So that should not stop the work on the field, the transformation, the farmers transformation to from chemical to natural farming. And that's why the emphasis on local champions should be prominent to anybody who is working in this space. Any outside thing, we are talking about no external microbes, right? We are also talking about no external resource person. Build local champions, they will drive the cause much better and with much rigor. So all of this is not just happening as a project or program. We are saying that we want to, because this is a new and emerging science, we want, there is a separate academy that has been set up, which looks at the science for developing evidence, to look at the biophysical aspect, to look at the social science aspect, to look at it in an integrated manner, the soil, biodiversity, yield, cost, every facet of that. And this is why the Indo-German Global Academy for Agroecology Research and Learning has come into practice. And these are basically the focus of the, and this is very beautiful and fascinating, the one of the flagship program of this academy is on farmer scientists. We are saying that we won't depend on the universities or the research institute who just discard this as a pseudoscience. We are saying whose science counts. Is it some scientist sitting in isolation, or is it the people or the farmers, a million farmers, as you saw earlier, working? So we have decided to democratize science. We want to take science to the people and work and develop farmer scientists. And if, as you can see on the screen, that we are in the pursuit, the state of Andhra Pradesh is in the pursuit of developing 10,000 farmer scientists. These farmer scientists will do a 3 to 4 years of, just like how you and me did graduation, so 3 to 4 years of graduation and work with practicals along with developing their theoretical concepts. And it's beautiful because the farmers who are identified are semi-literate or illiterate, but literacy is not an aspect. They know the science, or they know the concept of farming so well. So we are working in democratizing the science of natural farming. And as you can see, there is a lot of national and international organizations who have come on board. So nothing of this is anecdotal or mystical. These are all happening in the rigorous pursuit of scientific and rational oriented. But the only thing difference is we want to do science or research differently. The conventional scientific parameters should not be used to measure agroecology. So we are developing it in a certain way so that it is applicable to people who are doing natural farming or agroecology. So these are all ongoing research. Now I started, and these are last few critical slides that we want to look at. That, as I started by saying, we are looking at paradigm shifts. Look at it. We are saying that soil is a living entity. It is not just a mere substrate, it's not dirt. It is a living entity. We need to understand soil to understand the entire food systems functioning. What we have also understood, and this is very counterintuitive, a lot of points are that plants feed the soil. It's not soil which feeds the plant. We need to understand, and there is an exchange that happens between plant and the soil, and they exchange nutrients, they exchange microbes. Then the third paradigm shift, let us understand, and these are all developed by the work that has happened in Andhra Pradesh. That we are talking about crop diversity. It is extremely critical. The species, they help each other, they have a role to play. So crop diversity is extremely critical. That is the third major paradigm shift that we want to talk about. The fourth is nutrient acquisition by plant is very complex. These are microbial mediation is completely important, along with the rhizophagy and endophytes. So we need to understand that there is no external input requirement or synthetic or organic requirements. Then fifth and very crucial is that all plants fix nitrogen. So we first we were always harping about leguminous plant, but we have seen that all plants fix nitrogen. They have to. So this is another paradigm shift. Then weeds, we have misunderstood weeds in such an extent that farmers, there are many farmers, who do every aspect of natural farming, but then they use weedicides. So we need to understand the importance of weeds, and we need to see that they have an important role of microbial densities and fungal aspects as well. Then we are saying as a new water paradigm, where we are saying that plants are not mere consumers of water, but they also produce water, which we call as green water. And this is what has been a major breakthrough, where the program is talking about harnessing water from the air, especially in the tropical countries. These are not intuitive, these are well proven on the grounds, and it's becoming scalable models. And then we are talking about pest management, that role. So it has been observed that if the soil is healthy, the pest attacks are minimal. So we need to work towards building robust soil and crop diversity, and that helps in the plant health pyramid. Now, in a nutshell, what we want to say is that, will food and nutrition security be compromised? Country like India with the 1.5 billion mouths to feed? The simple answer is no. We can, in fact, the current conventional agricultural system is not able to feed if we go the business as usual way. We need to talk about natural farming. We are talking about 365 days green cover. We can feed the world. We have adequate nutrients present across the globe to feed the world. Conventional farming system is putting us in grave danger, and this is what I want to end my narrative, is that we that all of this, by the way, it's not going to be an overnight change, because this knowledge is complex. We are talking about changing the behaviors of the farmers. So let us be extremely aware of the fact that it's people's life that we are talking about. It's people's belief that we are talking about, that farming can be just done in one way, and we are trying to change it. So let us do it in iterative manner. We are not talking about overnight change. We are talking about an iterative and phased manner, that slowly building the knowledge, gaining the trust, understanding the concept is extremely crucial to bring this change. Thank you. This is the end slide to let us, and it's a call for all of us to act now. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you, Swati. This was just wonderful. So much information. You tried to make it all clear, like 30 minutes. So appreciate your ability to do that. You have basically sent us through a trip to understand from planetary boundaries to the commonalities between what's happening in Latin America, in Africa, in Asia, and that's precisely what you said. There's the struggle and what we are facing. It's all
Yes.
common in all three continents. I have
Yes.
so many questions. I'm sure Precious does as well. I'm sure the audience does as well. There's one in particular for me, coming from our experience here in Latin America, in Mexico. It's like one of the biggest challenges for this paradigm shift, which you were mentioning, has been the very strong agri-food lobby. So the agro-industry lobby,
Yes.
a green revolution. They
Yes.
may change their name, but they're still the same. Or you call it Monsanto,
Yep.
DuPont, BASF, Dow Chemical. What changed in India? Was there any sort of like in this transition?
Yeah.
What was the type of support that you found for this?
Yes. Yes, that's a wonderful insight, Ercilia, because we are very sure that the agri-food system, because there is money in agroecology, there is money here, and corporates will do anything to for money, right? So we are envisaging that there will be a corporate takeover, and that's why we are talking about urgent transformation and paradigm shift, so that we build strong grassroots movements. This and that is the reason when there is this major question that we keep getting asked on markets, because market, because we look at agriculture and as so extractive. It is so capitalist system of agriculture that we know, where we just want to put something to get something out. So that is the reason, Esilia, while it does not, put a smile on many people's face when they talk about markets, they talk about premium, is because we want to strengthen our local food system. Because we know the moment any corporate, irrespective of whatever claim they do, that they want to, bring farmers, give farmers a very good remuneration, we are working towards decorporatizing the market right now. Because the moment markets come into picture, they will really take over the crop diversity. Because for example, the PepsiCos, or for example, the we have PepsiCo coming and saying we want sustainable potatoes. So the moment you talk about just potato, you're just jeopardizing the entire conversation around multi-cropping systems. So we have to be very cautious that with respect to such. And this is, Celia, just to answer your question of how do you really prevent the takeover agrochemical lobbies. First is that. Second is, we are talking about building strong grassroots movements, because they will come and they will hold us by the horns. So we have to talk about strong grassroots movements, and that is the reason we need to mobilize communities much better and faster, to be honest, before the corporate takeovers take place. And third is, we want to bring develop women. I do not know, I'm sure in Mexico also, that women movements have to be very strong. Because otherwise, the moment the corporate takes over comes back, so we are just getting out of one evil of green revolution to another of agrochemical industries. Thankfully for India, and this duality will exist though, Ercilia, but in India, the political will right now is on transforming the agricultural food systems. So there were push of some corporates also in the natural farming conversation, but I think there is an enough resilience also, even in the conversation on GM, for example. Uh, the civil society and the advocacy is strong. So we are trying to overcome, but yeah, I'm very sure it will sooner or later going to come. We have to be ready for bloodbath, to say the least. Yeah.
Um, Thank you. Thank you, Swati. I think this has been insightful. And I think in the interest of time, we'll just start
Yes.
winding down. And I certainly think that we'll have lots of questions from our viewers.
Yes.
Once they do
So
those, I think we can send them to you. But I also wanted to check in to say, what was that tipping point that
yeah.
stimulated a need to go towards natural farming? What
Yeah.
was the shock?
Yeah.
Because usually
So
these things happen after a
yeah.
certain shock, but what was that?
So the shock was, you require leadership. So this is charismatic leadership. So I'm very sure a lot of us have heard about, see, every movement, the feminist movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, every movement required a leader. So in this conversation on natural farming, a leader in the form of the bureaucrat, by the way, Precious. It was not just a civil society, it's the government person who emerged as a champion, which worked in the favor of natural farming conversation in India. And but the problem is that is not enough. One man is not enough. We need to, and that is the struggle of developing such leaders in the governments and it's very difficult, Precious, it's very easy to convince a farmer, it's difficult to convince a bureaucrat or a policymaker. They require evidence. A farmer doesn't require evidence. Also, I know we are short of time, but I want to tell the audience that it's not just a work in Andhra Pradesh. The natural farming work is being seeded across India, and we are working with Indonesia, Zambia, Mexico, Kenya. In fact, we have started our work Precious in Zambia and Indonesia. And Ercilia, we had the government of Mexico visiting India just last week. So there is, we have this exchange of knowledge. It's not restricted only till India. It's being taken across the globe, and we are learning as well from Africa as well as from Latin America, from Mexico as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, you guys have really contributed to the agroecology and regenerative agriculture movement. And I think lots of African communities will be a part of this, including
Yes.
Mexican communities, because we also have projects and learning sites. So I think this is a start to a much longer journey, I think. Yeah, no, thanks. Essie, do you have any closing remarks?
No, I think this is extraordinary. This is precisely the type of conversations that we need to have, because
Yes.
there's so many commonalities, what we're facing, what we're seeing, our challenges. There's people on the ground everywhere doing the right thing,
Correct.
challenging paradigms,
Yes.
at the first sign of struggles. And there's so many examples of hope. And this is what the People's Food Summit is all about.
Yes. And it's
Bringing,
possible in a lifetime. You don't
right,
require many
Yes.
years. Yes, it's possible.
exactly.
Yeah.
And Swati, you're one of those like lights of hope.
Yeah.
Like from
Yes.
what you do to how you say it, you're so
Yeah.
passionate. It's so good to have you
Thank you so
here.
much for giving our farmers a chance. I think we are just mere articulating the exemplary work that they are doing. So all kudos to them. Arcelia. Thank you so much for giving us platform. Precious.
Thank you,
Yeah, this
Precious.
is
Thank you,
amazing.
Swati.
And it will certainly, yeah, thank you guys.
Let's
Bye,
stay
everyone.
strong and let's stay connected.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.